The earliest tight end ever taken in the NFL draft. It happened in the 2021 draft, and it is Kyle Pitts out of the University of Florida. What some have already said is a generational talent. We've had folks say that if Pitts was a wide receiver, he'd be maybe the best in this class at the position. And he lands at the 4th overall pick to the Atlanta Falcons, a team that passes the ball a ton over the last couple of years. 4th in pass attempts, 1st in pass attempts in 2019, 5th in 2018. A lot of people saw this landing spot as a pretty chalk option, one that we could see coming the way that the Falcons were going to draft, and with Pitts being on the board after the big 3 QBs. But Alex, at first glance, initial gut reactions, what do you think about this Pitts pick, and what do you expect from fantasy for Pitts? Because I know there's going to be a lot of disagreements here.
I'm just smiling and shaking my head because I love it. I am so excited for Kyle Pitts, and I'm one of those people that typically I like to use the tight end position as an advantage. I know a lot of people just kind of say whatever and they pass on it, but I love it. And say what you want about tight ends, even if you're one of those people that's like, oh, whatever, I don't care. I'll take one of those mid-tier guys and hope for the touchdown every week or stream a guy. Even if you don't like tight ends, you're on the whole rookie tight ends don't break out narrative, which is actually true. I'm just telling you, Kyle Pitts is different to me. And we were talking before we hit record here, Steph. Kyle Pitts physically compares really closely to Noah Fant. And Noah Fant's one of these guys who we're expecting to break out any day now. He's shown some flashes over the past couple seasons, but I said, look, what if Noah Fant, instead of the Falcons drafting Pitts, what if Noah Fant would have gotten traded to the Falcons? And Noah Fant now had this high volume passing offense with a good quarterback in Matt Ryan. How nuclear would people be going for Noah Fant? And that's essentially what we got in Kyle Pitts, but Kyle Pitts is even better than Noah Fant. He's an even better prospect. He's a 99th percentile 40 time at a 4.44 for a tight end at 6'6", 245. A 96th percentile breakout age, a 92nd percentile college dominator rating, a 96th percentile college yards per catch at 17.9 yards per catch for a tight end. And on top of all of that, on top of the measurables, on top of the analytics, on top of the tape, on top of the production, he now has the landing spot with the Atlanta Falcons with a solid quarterback in Matt Ryan, with the pass volume in the offense. There's nothing not to like about Kyle Pitts, the player, Kyle Pitts, the situation. The only red flag you can throw up is all of these other tight ends in the past in the NFL that haven't worked out as rookies for whatever reason, who have nothing to do with Kyle Pitts at all. So if there's going to be an outlier, it's going to be Kyle Pitts. He already is an outlier, being the highest tight end drafted in NFL history. He already is an outlier. I don't know if I'm going to say this correctly. This is the first time that a tight end has been the first non-quarterback off the board. So we saw quarterback go 1, 2, 3. It's the first time a tight end has been the first non-quarterback at the 4th overall pick. So we're kind of in uncharted territory here, and it's just a perfect fit. I mean, Atlanta was 26th in the NFL in 2020 in red zone touchdown percentage. Only 53% of red zone drives went for touchdowns. And now Pitts comes in as a red zone monster for this team. I am going to have what I think is a little bit of a hot take here. Kyle Pitts is scoring 10 touchdowns as a rookie this season. I statted the Falcons out today, finally started that process for 2021. Right now, I haven't done all the teams, but if he was in 2020, I have his total points as somewhere, or his points per game, that is, because there are 17 games, somewhere in like that tight end 4, tight end 5 range as a rookie, which is absolutely crazy. So we'll get into some of the target share and what we expect for Pitts from a volume perspective. But Steph, first, I got to get your reaction because I'm coming out with some fire here early.
I love it. It's a great landing spot. There's plenty of opportunity to go around. He has literally the best draft capital. If you believe in draft capital as an indicator, if you believe that NFL evaluators know what they're doing, then you have to say that, look, Pitts was taken earlier than everyone else because he's better than everyone else that's ever been drafted. Now, I don't necessarily read into that. And when you're calling me out, Alex is one of these guys that likes to stream the tight end position a little bit. In our leagues, I'll just take TJ Hawkinson and just kind of let him ride as a set it and forget it option, even though he's not necessarily the best and doesn't give me a huge advantage at the position. But the opportunity cost for me in a Dynasty rookie draft, when I'm sitting there on the board looking at Jamar Chase, I'm looking at Javonte Williams, I'm looking at Devontae Smith, I'm looking at all the big 5 QBs. I found this stat courtesy of 4for4. Just 7 rookie tight ends in the last 9 years, so that's 62 total tight ends, have seen at least 65 targets that first season, and only one has been anything more than a fantasy streamer in their first year, and that's Rob Gronkowski, one of the most generational Hall of Fame tight ends we've ever seen. So what you're betting on, if you're going to take Pitts in the first half of the first round in a Superflex Dynasty League in a rookie draft, what you're saying is that you're banking on Pitts being a generational talent, being a guy that transcends the rookie tight end narrative. But even beyond that first year, I think he will hold value. It's just that right now, Kyle Pitts is already a top 5 tight end. How are we going to see that value truly go up unless he's better than the top 3 guys? Kelsey, Kittle, Waller. You get into the Hawkinson, Andrews range after that. Noah Fant can slide in there, but I see a play where I can get Devonta Smith, who's right now going to come in as like a low-end wide receiver 2, and in a year from now, I have a guy who's creeping towards top 10 at the position. You know what I mean? So there's just not a ton of room for him to go up, but you got to get excited because of the pass attempts in this offense. And so let's talk about the target share for a minute, Alex. Let's break this down. Let's bring some numbers into it. Okay, we know a healthy Julio Jones is probably going to see something like 7 to 8 targets a game. In 2020, he was on pace for over 120 targets. In 2019, he had 157 targets and has had a top 10 target share across the league for wide receivers almost every single season. And then we have an emerging Calvin Ridley, who saw a 25% target share in 2020. When both were on the field, we had Julio with 157, Ridley 93. I don't see Ridley going back to 93 targets unless they just stop passing the ball. So I'm going to assume right off the bat, Julio and Ridley are going to get 45% of the offense, assuming good health. So that leaves, assuming a 600 pass attempt, the Falcons remain one of the highest passing teams in the league. We get 300 to 320 targets for Russell Gage, who had 109 targets last year. I don't think he's going away completely. The running backs got over 100 targets last year. And even if that goes down a little bit, we still have, Mike Davis and Javian Hawkins, the undrafted free agent at Louisville. Those guys can both take receptions out of the backfield. At least I think they can. So that leaves Pitts needing an exceptionally high snap count and usage rate like Kelsey or Kittle or Waller for him to ascend right off the bat. But we keep bringing up the Hawkinson and Fant comparison. So let's look at Hawkinson. 59 targets year 1, 101 in year 2, and he's still not a guy that moved the needle for most dynasty lineups, most fantasy rosters. He was, kind of last tier above the streamer range. Same thing with like a Dallas Goedert. And then you look at Noah Fant, 66 targets year 1, which is about where I see Pitts being, maybe slightly higher, more like 75 targets.
Wow, that's so low.
93 targets year 2. You're just banking on a lot to go right. And then statistically, with how low rookie tight ends produce, you're committed to playing the long game with Pitts. You're committed to keeping a roster spot for Kyle Pitts around as long as it takes for him to break out. And we've looked at these athletic freaks like Vernon Davis. It takes guys like that still something like 4 years to hit a season where they're above 12 fantasy points per game, where they're actually a tight end that gives you a weekly advantage at the position. So I love Pitts. I love the landing spot. Great for the Falcons. Great pick by them. And I do think there's a chance, a high chance, that Pitts is a generational talent. He transcends everything we know about tight ends, rookies, and beyond in the NFL. it's just hard for me to look at that and then look at the opportunity cost of a Devonta Smith, a Jamar Chase, a Javonte Williams, guys that have plenty of room to increase in value, and I'm not waiting around for years and years and years for them to break out. So, Alex, I know we disagree, and I don't think there is a true right or wrong answer here. And certainly
I couldn't disagree more.
If you're in a situation where you don't have a starting tight end, sure, move Pitts up a little bit, but I'm not taking him any earlier than the 107, 108 at absolute earliest in the Superflex draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually fair value. I have him at the 106 right now, so we're not too far off, but man, I couldn't disagree more with some of your takes there. That target volume you expect him to get his rookie season, I think, is egregiously low. I hope I remember this at the end of the season so I can come back and rub it in your face when he gets 100-plus targets, because that's where I have him.
Wow.
I mean, first of all, it's a 17-game season, so, in a normal season, maybe that's mid-90s. But you talk about TJ Hawkinson, you talk about Noah Fant. I don't think those are necessarily fair comps. TJ Hawkinson's a totally different player than Kyle Pitts. You talked about him not necessarily moving the needle, but if Kyle Pitts and TJ Hawkinson got the same number of targets, which I think Pitts will get more at this phase in his career, but a Pitts target is worth possibly like 1.3x what a Hawkinson target is. I mentioned the yards per catch in college for Pitts, 17.9. This dude ran a 4.4, 4.40. He's a bigger, better red zone threat, so his targets are going to have a premium on him. And in regards to Noah Fant, I believe was the 20th overall pick his year. In his rookie season, 66 targets on an offense that threw the ball 500 times. The Falcons are throwing the ball 600 plus times each season, and Kyle Pitts was the 4th overall pick. There's a big difference. 20th overall pick's great. First round draft capital for a tight end, tremendous. We're in different territory here, and I know people are going to throw out all these stats about the rookie tight ends, but Kyle Pitts is an outlier, and he's already proved that because of what we've seen through this draft. So